Good evening to all of you. Welcome to JobGrade IAS. And today evening, we are going to start the practice session 2 of mains answer writing. First of all, in my first session, I told you about that answer writing is an art. It does not come to you overnight. You will have to practice again and again. And a structured practice, a guided practice is required, right? And for that guided practice, our YouTube channel is here. And for more guidance, you can subscribe the channel, you can download the app, and you can join our paid batches, the Ignite Foundation batches. Now, what I told you yesterday, I discussed one question, that why the revolt of 1857 confined to North India only, why it was uh, not expanded to southern India and eastern India, and why people of South India refrained themselves from this revolt of 1857, and what were the outcomes, right? So we discussed two questions. So what is the nature of UPSC? The nature of UPSC is very simple. They ask you two question or three question which are coupled in a single question, right? So for mains answer writing, what is the basic requirement? Is it the best notes? No. Notes are available in the market, right? A lot of compilations in the PDF forms are available in your phone, in your laptop, but why you are not able to write as per the demand of the examination? What is the main reason behind this? What is the main reason? Because there is lack of brainstorming. There is lack of brainstorming. As I told you earlier, as I told you earlier, people are relentlessly writing the answers for UPSC Mains 2025 who are scoring well in the prelims, means above 90. And that is a single indication for this prelims. If you are scoring above 90, you are safe. You can write the mains examination. If you are scoring between 85 to 90, you are on the borderline. But I am talking about those who are scoring more than 90 marks and they are practicing the answer writing relentlessly. Why? Because what is my motive behind these sessions? What is my motive? My motive is very clear. My motive is very clear. I want you to build the answers. I want you to build the answers. I don't want to give you the ready-made content that write from this point to this point. It won't work in the mains examination. You will have to build the answers. And to build the good answers as per the demand of the UPSC, what you need is brainstorming. What you need is brainstorming. So why brainstorming is important and what is brainstorming? Let us suppose I am asking you one question, that why do you want to be an IAS officer? Why don't you become an IPS officer or IRS officer? They are the class 1 officers available in India. They are recruited through the same examination. You will have to clear the prelims, you will have to clear the mains, you will have to clear the interview. But why do you want to become an IAS officer? Then you start thinking. Then you start thinking about the profile of an IAS officer, which is most probably the most diverse profile, right? You talk, sometimes you think about the privileges, you think about the political connections, not in a negative manner, in a positive manner, right? So this is known as brainstorming. Whenever you read the profile of an IAS officer from the internet, you are reading it manually, but your brain is somehow motivating you to write between the lines, to write in between the lines. So this is brainstorming. This is brainstorming. It's an art to think or read in between the lines. So this is brainstorming. So can you do brainstorming just after your first reading? Can you brainstorming just after your first reading? My question is this. Please show me the comments. Please show me the comments on this screen. Okay. Can you brainstorm? Can you brainstorm just after first reading? Yes or no? I say yes, because you have very limited agendas for the examination. You go with a limited plan, and the plan says do not make notes after first reading, but the plan never denies to brainstorm just after the first reading. Let us suppose I have studied about the Indus Valley civilization, I have studied about their town planning, and I have studied these people had covered drainages. So this is a fact. But what is the outcome of brainstorming? That these people had good sense of hygiene, so that the town planners constructed the covered drainages, right? This is how you brainstorm over a topic. Yesterday only we brainstormed about the revolt of 1857, and what was the outcome of our brainstorming? We came to know that why it was confined to northern India only. I told you yesterday only that we studied the revolt of 1857. Just leave 1857, be it 1857, be it Quit India movement, be it non-cooperation movement in the history, be it Pallava architecture in the art and culture, be it World War II in the world history. What we read it traditionally. We just, remind these stories, we just learn these stories, but it is good to be factually correct, especially in the mains, right? You need to be factually very correct. So the motive of brainstorming is to provide the right argument supported by the valid fact. So what is the motive of brainstorming? What is the motive? The motive is to provide the right argument, supported by valid fact. Clear? Supported by the valid facts. And now how will you collect the valid facts? How will you collect the valid facts? Let us suppose you have given an argument, right? You have given an argument. What were the causes behind the revolt of 1857? You have given certain causes, right? Economic causes, political causes, religious causes, military causes. So whenever you give an argument, whenever you are giving an argument, it must be full of priorities. What you need to do? Prioritize. So whenever you read about the revolt of 1857, which I discussed yesterday through a question, you need to learn how to prioritize the points. If you are giving the reasons like economic reasons, then military reasons, then social reasons, then political reasons, there must be a certain order, because the prime reason behind the revolt of 1857 were the economic reasons. British administration in India collapsed the Indian economy in last 100 years from 1757 to 1857. Especially the labor class and the peasant class were devoid of anything. They had no option to revolt. They were looking for a centralized leader who could lead them, right? And before 1857, there were many movements. And reason was same, the British interference in the social life, in the economy, especially the economic life, right? Then social reasons came into being, then political reason, and last religious and military reasons. Even the military reasons of the revolt of 1857 were incited by the religious causes. You know the issue of old brown bass rifle and the brand new Royal Enfield rifles that time, right? So you have to prioritize the causes. 1850s revolt of 1857 was just an example that I am giving you. Now, valid facts, they must be supported by valid facts. Now, there are a lot of compilations, there are a lot of books that will give you number of facts. You need to learn them. Directly learn them. And how will you learn them? Through multiple revisions. I'm telling you how to write a good answer, right? I'm telling you what is the process to build a good answer. Okay. Now, so whenever you have the right argument supported by the valid facts, now we always in word limit. And how will you be always in the word limit? You will have to practice. And that is the reason that I am bringing you such sessions for you. We will discuss all the PYQs asked in the UPSC examination. We will decode what is the crux of all questions, from where the questions are being asked. Are theme repeated by the UPSC, especially in history, art and culture? Themes are continuously repeating from last 5 to 10 years. Okay. So, you cannot write a good answer directly by looking at the question. This is my message for the young aspirants who are just starting their preparation, who are more concerned about the mains answer writing, who are saying that answer writing is important since day one of the UPSC preparation. No, you have to thoroughly read the content for 3 to 4 months, and at certain point you will have command over certain topics of a certain subject. Then you are eligible to write or build the answers. Okay, so don't be in hurry. I am going to discuss one more previous year question that was asked in UPSC Mains 2024, and I'll tell you, I'll make you to brainstorm through this session, right? I am not going to provide you the ready-made material. I'll provide it later, right? But my aim is to make you brainstorm, right? Are you ready? So now I'm going to start. So the question is, what were the events that led to the Quit India movement? Point out its results. So in a single way, the UPSC wants to ask, this question was asked in UPSC Mains 2024, right? Modern Indian History, GS paper 1. We are discussing the GS paper 1. So what were the events led to the Quit India movement? Point out its result. So they are normally asking the causes and the outcome of Quit India movement. So what they are asking? They are asking causes and outcomes of Quit India movement. So here what we are going to do, we are following both the approaches. We are going to follow both the approaches, which I told you yesterday. We are going to follow the traditional approach, as well as the required approach. Right? So what is traditional approach? Traditional approach is introduction, body, body and conclusion. And next is the required approach, which is, as per the demands of the UPSC, which is as per the demand of the UPSC. And what I have told you repeatedly, you must have a right argument supported by valid facts. Valid facts. And what we are going to do in the end, while writing an answer, we will have an infusion of these two approaches. We will start with the introduction, then we will give body, and then we will give the conclusion. And the conclusion should be in such a manner that it must satisfy the contents that you have provided in the body. And what is the beauty of answer writing? If you are not, writing the valid arguments in the body of a question, then you will be confused while giving the conclusion of the answer. Let us suppose if somebody asking me, what were the immediate reasons behind the Quit India movement? And if I write that Indian masses were dissatisfied with the British policies, and if I am giving the examples of, let us suppose, the ban on freedom of press, the Vernacular Act of 1878, the Arms Act of 1878, can you relate these timelines with the timeline of 1942? Because the Quit India movement started on 8th of August 1942. Can you relate such longer timelines? You will be confused about the conclusion. And if you are good at giving the conclusion, you will exceed the word limit, because you have elaborated the body so long, even beyond the requirement of the UPSC. Okay. So now we are taking these two approaches, introduction and argument. Introduction is argument. Let us read the question again. What were the events that led to the Quit India movement? Now, what you will write in the introductory portion? Let us suppose I am writing the introduction. Right? Remember my words. Whenever you are seeing a question, you are witnessing a question in the UPSC mains, do not give the heading introduction. If you are giving the heading introduction, it's okay. But if you are starting your answer in such a manner that it is reflecting the introductory theme, then examiner will be impressed with the answer. Right? I am showing you the introduction. I have titled here for your understanding. So what you will write in introduction? That Quit India movement was a pan-India movement that started on 8th of August of 1942 by the Indian National Congress under the leadership of Mahatma Gandhi. Is it enough? Is this introduction or the definition of Quit India movement? It is the definition of the Quit India movement. This is not the introduction. What is the correct introduction of Quit India movement? That you need to learn the use of keyword. You need to give a proper keyword. What is keyword for this answer? Do you know the timeline of Quit India movement? The timeline of Quit India movement is 1942. Date, exact date was 8th of August 1942. Clear? And you have witnessed World War II from 1939 to 1942. So keyword is World War II, right? 1939, 1945. Why World War II is a keyword? Why World War II is a keyword for this answer? Because if World War II were not started, if World War II were not started or were not broke out, the launching of Quit India movement was impossible. Was impossible. Let me tell you the reason. Let me tell you the reason. I am telling you the reason because most of these students, do a fuss about writing the body of the question. So I'm clearing you in the introductory part. In 1937, Indian National Congress won the provincial elections, right? And in many provinces, they won by majority. They formed the government. Everything was going well. They were performing their governance, right? Suddenly, in 1939, in Europe, Hitler attacked Poland. Even he attacked the British establishments. My word, establishments. British suffered a lot of economic losses, and they declared war against Germany and the other fascist countries such as Japan and Italy. And you know the story of Allied powers and Axis powers. British was the part of Allied powers. Now, what was the mess British made amid the World War II? They declared Indian support in the World War II without the consent of Indian leaders and Indian masses. And this became the major reason why the Council of Ministers, which was sitting in the provinces, resigned, and they were forced to lead a mass movement. And this was not just a beginning of Quit India movement. When Gandhi assumed the leadership of Indian National Congress during World War II, he was supporting British because British was an imperial power, and Germany, Italy and Japan, they were the fascist powers. And fascism, as per Gandhi, was even worse than the imperialism. Fascism was even worse than the imperialism. So let us brainstorm. Let us brainstorm this topic. So first point is World War II broke out in 1939. Now this war was between two powers. This is not introduction. This is brainstorming points that I am telling you. The first power was imperialist, and the second power was fascism. Second power was fascism. The British were imperialists. American was supporting the imperialists. Even Russia was supporting Britain for their economic reasons. And fascism power were mostly Italy, Germany and Japan. Now, what Mahatma Gandhi suggested, many of the Indian leaders, including Subhash Chandra Bose, suggested Mahatma Gandhi, like Bapu, the World War II has broke out and everybody is riding on the horse of nationalism right now. Why do you want peace? Gandhi's stand was very clear that the imperialist powers, the fascist powers are even worse than the imperialist powers, and we don't want Indian independence on the demolishment of British Empire. So Gandhi refrained himself, and Quit India movement has even not yet launched this time. So now Subhash Chandra Bose fled from India, right? After escaping India, he formed the Indian National Army. That's a different story. But now the question in front of the Indian leaders was that how we can speak against the fascism when we are enslaved by the British, right? The question was, what was the question in front of the Indian leaders? What was the confusion? Confusion in nation. How we can raise our voice, raise our voice against fascism, against fascism, while enslaved to the British. Right? We are slaves, and slave has no voice. This was the reason, this was the main reason that created the background, the formation of Quit India movement. Is it clear? What I'm going to tell you, you need to first of all know what was the root cause that Quit India movement started. Then you will satisfy the immediate reasons. You will satisfy the immediate reasons of the Quit India movement. Now, and why it is happening? Why it is happening? Why Indian leaders are confused? Because because fascism Japan, which was also known as the Imperial Japan, who was supporting the fascist Italy, they defeated British forces and now they entered in Northeast India. And this time, Indian masses decided that we will launch a pan-India movement, which is known as the Quit India movement, to force British people to leave India. Clear? So, what will write in introduction that Quit India movement was started on 8th of August 1942 amid World War II in order to get or to obtain liberation, or you can write in order to, you can write World War II with the aim of total independence from the British Raj, from the British Raj. This should be the introduction. This should be the introduction. And what I've told you, that introduction should not exceed 3 to 4 lines, right? It should not exceed 3 to 4 lines. What is the next line you can add? The nature of the Quit India movement. The nature of the Quit India movement, and who was running the Quit India movement? Who was the main face of the Quit India movement, right? This should be the introduction. So what I have told you, the exact timeline, 8th of August, right? And then what was the aim? What was the objective of this Quit India movement? And what was the, and from whom again, for what reasons we launched this movement? We have covered in brainstorming. Now the next point is, in introduction, what you will write? The movement was launched by Indian National Congress. You should not write the INC in your examination. I am writing you to save my time. By Indian National Congress under the leadership of Mahatma Gandhi, under the leadership of Mahatma Gandhi. And what was the nature? What was the nature of this movement? So what you can write, primarily the movement was considered a non-violent movement but in later phases violence occurred due to the British, due to the oppressive measures by the British. It should be your introductory portion, that what was the Quit India movement, when did it started, what was the objective, what kind of leadership it had, and what was the nature, So what we learnt in introduction, we generally, I'm not going to question the ability of the coaches, the UPSC coaching line, but most of the times we directly teach the student, right, introduction. We have to break down it. So what is the breakdown of introduction? First of all, the definition. The definition, which means what, right? Then for this question, the right timeline. Then what we discussed, the objective, and then what we have discussed in this question, nature. What we discussed, nature. So these points, 4 points for any question related to Indian history, especially the modern Indian history and the world history, you need to remember, you need to keep in mind. Is it clear? Now I am going on the body part. I am going on the part 2, which is the body of the answer. Now, body. Now what you will write in body portion? First of all, you will write the reasons behind the launch of Quit India movement, and then you will write outcomes. Okay. So first of all, I am going to discuss the reasons. So what were the reasons? There are many reasons, right? But I am going to discuss you the immediate reasons. Because why immediate reasons? There were very, long-term reasons behind this Quit India movement, because Indian masses was frustrated because of the British policies from 100 years of British, under 100 year of British Raj. Now the Quit India movement was a sudden movement that started because of the World War II. So we have to write the immediate causes, the immediate reasons. Is it clear? So we have to satisfy the examiner with the immediate reason. If you will write the long-term reasons, you will lose your marks, right? So reasons, there are two bifurcations. Number one is long-term reasons, right? And number two is immediate reasons. Immediate reasons. And you need to prioritize this. It should be your priority. It should be your priority. Okay. Now, why I'm not prioritizing the long term reasons? Because the word limit is 150. Word limit is 150. It will exceed the word limit of the answers. If the word limit would be 250, then I could do something here, long term reasons. But my first priority is always the immediate reasons. So, what are the immediate reasons? What are the immediate reasons? So, can you prioritize the reasons, immediate reasons? I told you earlier in this lecture only, there was a war between imperialistic and fascist people, and Gandhi was very clear that fascism is even worse than imperialism. And the other Indian leaders thought how we can raise our voice against for the victims of fascism, being an enslaved nation, being an enslaved nation. That's why we launched the Quit India movement. And what forced us to think that we are an enslaved nation, we must raise our voice against the fascism? Because Japan aggressive stances defeated the British forces, and they reached till Rangoon. They reached on the northeastern border, right? What you can see, what you can write here, Japanese aggression on northeastern frontiers forced Indian leaders to pressurize the British to quit India movement. And what kind of pressure we are talking about? We are talking that liberate us. We want full independence. Even Gandhi was very clear. Gandhi said, at this point of time, if British, I am requesting the British that leave India at any cost. Whether we are attacked by the Germans, whether we are attacked by the Japanese, but you leave us on our conditions. Right? Now, Japanese aggression on northeast frontiers forced Indian leaders to pressurize the British through the QIM. Now, British are under pressure. Because Indians are demanding the total independence. So, what British will do? They will seek Indian support. And they will throw the series of negotiations for Indians. And these series of negotiations will prove a failure for the British. And amid these series of negotiations, the first negotiation the British thrown for India was August offer. So, the immediate reason was the failing of, actually you put this point on second priority. The first priority was August offer, right? I am putting this on second priority because Japanese advanced at the northwest frontiers of India in 1942, right? The August offer came to India in 1940 because British were seeking the Indian support. August offer failed. Failure of August offer. Failure of August offer. And what was August offer in 1940? That we will provide India the dominion status which India demanded way back in 1928, which India demanded after the World War I. And the dominion status was a rotten concept for the Indians. That's why the negotiations failed. Even August offer made the provisions for the Muslim League that no constitutional reforms in India can take place without the consent of Muslim League. Indirectly, they have given a veto power to Muslim League. And this was not acceptable to the Indian National Congress. This was not acceptable to the Hindu Mahasabha or Communist Party or various parties which was sitting in the negotiations, right? It was the failure of Indian August offer that forced Indian to launch a pan-India movement. Next was the failure of third priority is failure of Cripps mission. Failure of Cripps mission. And Cripps mission was led by Sir Stafford Cripps, who was a very good friend of Jawaharlal Nehru, and he came to India for negotiations, for the transfer of power, for the forming of new constitution for India, right? But in the form of dominion status after the Japanese aggression, because now British authority in high pressure, because they wanted, British authority was in under high pressure. They wanted, thorough negotiations with India, but these negotiations failed. Okay. Now, so what was the modulus operandi of Cripps mission? That we are going to provide you the dominion status, and this dominion status will make India a dominion of Britain. India will have full sovereignty in internal matters, but external affairs will be in the British hands. India will have, but Indians were concerned about their sovereignty, as this was the part of the total independence. Hence, these negotiations were failed. You mark my word, you don't need to write the exact provisions of August offers and Cripps mission while writing your answers. Right? This I am telling you the brainstorming, the body of the content. Right? So these were the three reasons why the Quit India movement was launched. These were the three immediate reasons. And the long-term reason was the communal award, which was revived by Ramsay MacDonald in 1932 after the three round table conferences, right? And this was an attempt to break the Indian unity. And now Indian came to know that British cannot downplay their importance. So this was the long-term reason. Indians were waiting for a pan-Indian movement, and World War II gave them the immediate reasons. These failure of these negotiations gave them the immediate reasons to launch this movement, but they were incited by this communal award also. Most of the Indian leaders, right, except Baba Saheb Ambedkar, because Baba Saheb Ambedkar accepted the communal award because somewhere it was benefiting the Dalits. So now these were the reasons, and what were the outcomes? What were the outcomes of this Quit India movement? What were the outcomes? First of all, whenever you write the outcomes of this Quit India movement, you cannot write all the good outcomes. Write something organic. And outcomes were both positive and negative. Do you think that you are launching a pan-India movement and saying British, liberate us completely? You are not believing in your negotiations. You are not believing in your demand that you are giving us the dominion status because it was a rotten concept, and British are silently going. No, they are taking the oppressive measures. So British increased their oppressive measures. British increased the oppressive measures. And what British will do? You cannot write just this point. British increase the oppressive measures. Even a class 8th standard student can write this. You are an UPSC aspirant. How will you write it? They started flogging Indians, imprisoned them. Right? They started doing capital punishment to them. Even British PM Churchill, who was a hardcore imperialist, He said very clearly, repeat the atrocities of 1857. If you don't have a prison to give them the capital punishment, hang them on trees. Frightened them completely. If you want to kill Mahatma Gandhi, then kill Mahatma Gandhi, because British were afraid of, harming Mahatma Gandhi before the launching of Quit India movement, because he was a pan-Indian leader. But this time, Churchill made it clear, very clear. Additionally, this is not in the context of the answer. Additionally, I'm telling you, when somebody asked Churchill, if you want such kind of atrocities in India, why you're afraid to launch such kind of oppressive measures? He said, I'm afraid of the Indian National Army that is led by Subhash Chandra Bose. Right? So this is the British increased the oppressive measures. They ban on communications such as post, radio, movement of people, movement of masses, you can write, etc. Next was, it enhanced the feel of nationalism, because when the elections of 1937 took place, we were somehow divided in many reasons. We were satisfied with the work of Indian National Congress. We were satisfied with the fact that Indian National Congress is our party. It is representing the Indians. But somehow Indian masses wanted that British, it's high time that British must liberate us. They wanted the full independence. As Jawaharlal Nehru in 1929 quoted, that I do not believe in the kings, I do not believe in industrialists, I believe in total independence. Right? So Indian masses were highly influenced by them. So British increased the oppressive measures. Enhancement in nationalism, in national sentiment, right? And you will see a lot of labor strikes, You know what you'll write? Labor strikes. Or you can write pan-Indian labor strikes. Pan-Indian labor strikes. Okay. What can be the next point? Mutiny in Royal Navy in 1946. Mutiny in the Royal Navy. This was the one of the major outcome of the Quit India movement. Why? Because Britain that time was known for its naval power, and this naval power in India was supported by the Indians. Most of the Indian youth were employed in the Indian Navy, and because of the influence of Quit India movement, a naval unit located in Bombay known as Talwar, the soldier of Talwar revolted. They wrote the anti-British slogans on the walls of the ships. They wrote the national slogans such as Vande Mataram or Angrezo Bharat Chodo, British leave India, on the walls of the ships. They hosted the flags of Indian National Congress. They hosted the flags of Muslim League. They hosted the flags of Communist Party of India. They were united that we are going to support each and every party in our country amid the after the Quit India movement, but our aim to liberate India. Our message is very clear that British should leave India now. So this was the final nail in the coffin of the British. These were the outcomes, and the most important outcome was international pressure. Now, amid World War II, the movement has launched. Gandhi has been imprisoned. Indian masses are uncontrolled. They have established the secret radio service, the secret postal services, and the advent of Japanese on the Indian borders. the advent of Indian National Army led by Subhash Chandra Bose asserted the international community that how British people are doing atrocities on Indians, right? And this can fluctuate their objective to defeat the fascism powers. So the allied nations such as America and Russia pressurized the British that this is the high time you must independent India, you must liberate India, as well as in after this Quit India movement, when elections occurred in Britain, Labour Party, which was not in power, which was contesting against the Conservative Party, they were in favor of Indian independence. So Indian leaders visited London, right? They visited London and they promoted the Labour Party there. So this made an international pressure on the British. Due to Japanese resistance, due to resistance of INA, Indian National Army, right? Due to the pressure of allied nations, and due to the Balkan Plan. Balkan Plan must be your homework, right? You need to brainstorm over this, because without knowing the Balkan Plan, you cannot directly jump over the Indian Independence Act. Indian Independence Act has its roots in Balkan Plan. Okay, so Balkan Plan was like British people should liberate its colonies in Asia and Africa, and India was an Asian colony. So most of the nations liberated through this Balkan Plan. Now, these were the outcomes, right? And most important outcome was this mutiny in the Royal Navy. But you cannot prioritize, because the movement ended in 1945 or 1944, was mutiny occurred in 1946. Now it was inspired by the Quit India movement. So now I have given you this slide. Quit India movement was launched. I could show you directly, but our aim was to build the answer through the brainstorming. We have done enough brainstorming in this session. So Quit India movement was launched by the Indian National Congress under the leadership of Mahatma Gandhi amid World War II. This is the keyword. This is the keyword. In line, the Congress ideology was supposed to be a peaceful and non-violent movement amid the aimed at urging the British to grant Indian independence. Now, okay. So we have done enough brainstorming. We have built an answer. You try to write this answer without practicing the PYQs. You cannot build very good answers for the mains examination. You cannot score well. So our aim is to brainstorm. Our aim of this session was brainstorming and to build an answer. Tomorrow I am discussing one or two more questions on Indian history, right? Especially on Monday. Right? Tomorrow I think is off, Sunday is off, so I'll be coming back on Monday or with two questions, and I'll show you the exact format that how to write a good answer. Today was the day for brainstorming. Brainstorming we want to leave for our next sessions. We will do brainstorming, but with the sessions we will decrease our time for brainstorming. For what? It's a message that you are learning, and through your comments, please let me know whether you like the session or not, don't like this session. Subscribe JobGrade IAS, install our app, join Ignite Foundation batch for proper guidance, right? We are doing all the things, answer writing, MCQs, the classes, the modules, the DPPs, all things we are providing, we are doing in our paid batch. So this was the session for you people, right? I hope you understood. Let me revise it again. Motive behind the session: we are building the answers, we are doing the brainstorming. Next is, we must have the right argument supported by the valid facts. then we started our question. We fragmented the questions, right? We fragmented the question. So I hope it's clear to you all, right? We'll see you on